now available in paperback and e-readers, The Temptation of John Haynes. Give in to temptation and pick up this action-packed African-American paranormal romance. Get The Temptation of John Haynes in paperback and e-readers today. One of my viewers wants to know, do we need a new economic system here in the United States for black people? Now, the viewer is proposing creating a new economic system for black people here in the United States so that black people can go out here and be able to live a lifestyle where they can have a higher quality of life. And to answer their question, no, we don't need a new economic system here in the United States to allocate resources to foundational black Americans. No, what we need to do is abolish the system of white supremacy. Now, the system of white supremacy is an unjust system created by a group of rich white people which look to allocate resources based on race and not by going out here and making sure that those who work hard get what they are supposed to get. No, the system of white supremacy is one that is very racist and again is about making sure that only white people receive benefits based on them getting goodies, giveaways, and guarantees based on the color of their skin, and making sure that people who are black are oppressed in a second-class status so that they won't be able to fairly compete inside of the economy. Now, that system of white supremacy has benefited a group of wealthy white people at the top and a lot of white people who are a part of the middle class that they socially engineered based on the color of their skin, and that's allowed white people to live a high-class lifestyle at the expense of black people who get denied opportunities to be able to compete in the economy due to the racist policies that have been put in place, such as separate but equal that was established with the Dred Scott Supreme Court decision, and the segregation that came forward, and also with the terrorism that went on from organizations like the Ku Klux Klan, which went out here and eliminated competition from black communities by burning down towns like Rosewood and even bombing towns like Black Wall Street, keeping black people from being able to compete in the American economy and live to achieve their American dream. That's what's been going on here in this country for over 400 years, and ever since black people got their freedom, they have never gotten that chance to achieve their American dream due to the institution of white supremacy look to force black people into a codependent economic state where they look to depend on the institution of white supremacy for their daily bread, because many of those black people never get that chance to compete inside of the U.S. economy and be able to actualize their potential due to the discrimination that they suffer by being denied the opportunity to work a job based on the merits of their qualifications, being denied an opportunity to go out here and be able to build a business because the governments basically go out here and use bureaucracy and white supremacy to deny black people the ability to go out here and get permits and licenses or even be able to even get the capital, because what they do is because white supremacy controls the financial institutions, black people cannot even get loans to start their businesses, and they also use redlining to deny black people access to the real estate and the ability to find a venue for their businesses. So the institution of white supremacy basically closes black people out of the world of business and the job market and has them scavenging to make a living however they can, and that whole system is completely unjust because it runs against the concepts that were presented in the U.S. Constitution, such as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and other terms in the Constitution that are supposed to guarantee a foundational black American citizen their rights to have their freedom in this country. And that's why the system of white supremacy has to be abolished, because there's no way for a black person to be able to be a part of the economy, to be able to compete in the economy, because the current economic system that's basically out here is white supremacy, and that system of white supremacy is all about making sure that white people, based on the color of their skin, are guaranteed a certain type of lifestyle, guaranteed jobs, guaranteed abilities to start businesses, guaranteed opportunities that black people cannot get and are denied to be able to get. And what's even worse as related to that system is that you've got a series of black bootlicks who will go out here and support that system, and again go out here and support that system, hoping to be the H-nice and not look to help out any other foundational black American by helping them be able to achieve anything, because as long as they've got theirs, they believe that they are better than other black people. So when it comes down to this system of white supremacy, it's steeped in anti-black racism, and the ultimate goal is to keep black people from being in a place where they compete and keep them at the bottom. That's what this system was designed for, again, keep black people at the bottom. And it's clear that black people can go out here and succeed without white people, but the system of white supremacy is filled with very hypersensitive and insecure individuals, who fear any sort of competition from black people. And that was shown when black people got their freedom after the Civil War, and black people started building towns like Rosewood and Black Wall Street in Oklahoma. What happened was when black people built these towns in Florida and Oklahoma, they were thriving areas, and again, thriving areas that did not depend on anybody in the white institutions. And many of these former slave masters and plantation workers down there basically were, and people who lost the Civil War, they were really upset because their smooth world was being disrupted, the reality that they were told by white supremacy in their propaganda that blacks were inferior and blacks were incapable of living, as they saw black people actually living and growing and thriving in their own communities and shattering the reality of the anti-black propaganda they had been listening to and had been spreading for centuries as lies. They started to see the truth that if black people were given an equal opportunity, they could go out here and build thriving towns, have black families, and have a strong black community. And in order to stop that, what they did was participate in a campaign of terrorism that destroyed these towns, took the lives of thousands of black people, and participated in terrorism campaigns of burning down the homes of black people, burning down the businesses of black people. Again, that's what they did in the South during Jim Crow, and during the North, whenever you had educated, qualified black men and black women out here who had skills, they were denied opportunities to be able to work to the most of their potential. Many people had college degrees, had to be working as janitors and Pullman porters because that was the only job they could get. And even today, men like myself can't even get into the job market because we have a lot of these feminists and these other radicals, again, basically looking to impose white supremacy and deny black men opportunities to enter the job market. And what's even worse is that they go out here and recruit black women to shore up their human resource brick wall to keep black men out of the job market. And this is why we cannot go out here and have this economic system continue to remain in place, because the economic system, again, it was working for black people, but it's basically because our economic system is reinforced by a system of white supremacy. This is why the system of white supremacy has to be abolished before we can do anything at all. Now, the late Neely Fuller Jr. talked about this system of white supremacy in depth, and his thoughts are presented in many videos by a YouTuber named Hip Hop Cartoons, who animated the discussions that Neely Fuller went in depth on about white supremacy, and as he related to his book about the code as related to white supremacy. And he himself says that the only way for black people to to be able to gain any sort of tangibles as related to this whole government is we have to have a system of justice. And again, the system of justice has to replace the system of white supremacy. That's the only way black people are going to receive anything tangible as related to our government. Is this system of white supremacy has to be abolished. And again, when it comes down to economics, again, black people were thriving when we basically were left alone, when foundational black Americans were left alone. Many black people, again, built businesses. We had schools, we had theaters, we had an entire community in places like Rosewood, Florida, and places like Black Wall Street in Oklahoma. It's proven we can go out here and build strong communities like Sugar Hill in Harlem, and we can go out here and build a strong community when we are left to ourselves. However, in order for us to really actualize our potential, this institution of white supremacy must be destroyed, and that's for the greater good of all mankind, because the whole system of white supremacy, basically, as I see it, is like a religion. It's a religion that basically infects people's minds and takes them off the road to serving God, because the system basically transposes white onto God, and has people believing in a white Jesus instead of serving God, the provider of all resources. And instead of seeing that God is not a man, they start believing that God is white. And that's really messed up the minds of generations of people as related to the system of white supremacy. And again, the system of white supremacy has basically destroyed the minds of many foundational black Americans and has us filled with self-hatred. But this overall economic system, again, the allocation of resources, again, the allocation of resources when it's not under the system of white supremacy can be a very competitive thing. And when black people are allowed to compete fairly, the thing is that we could be a truly great people, but the whole thing is that the white supremacist fears that if black people start to actualize their potential, he won't be able to tether himself to black people in a codependent fashion, because if black people are working for themselves, then they cannot go out here and again leech off black people, because most of what happened with this country was built by black people who were slaves, who were brought here and again did most of the labor. And if we start doing that labor for ourselves, what they fear is that we're going to dominate the way we do in sports, because when white people played sports, it was just corny and whack like basketball and football. But once black people came into the sport, we started to dominate the sport. And that's what they fear is going to happen, that they're going to be dominated by black people because we did the labor and weren't not given a system of goodies, giveaways, and guarantees that basically ensure that this person is given a lifestyle. No, we can do the labor, and once we do the labor, we don't need that person anymore to benefit from us. So what they fear is that if we go out here and start dominating in economics and politics the way we do in business, that it's a game over, and they won't have any way to get their daily bread outside of oppressing us. And that's why they need to oppress us. It's because the only way they can get their daily bread and have their lifestyle maintained is by going out here and again having black people in a state of where their minds are completely broken and seeing themselves at the bottom of the world. And if black people are seeing themselves at the bottom of the world, they can benefit at the top by going out here and again manipulating black people to be fighting each other as they make money at the expense of those black people, because they're not competing in the economy and they're not making them step up their game. And one of the things they don't want to do is step up their game, because when it came down to many of those in white supremacy and those who are white supremacist supporters, like those in other countries, they get their daily bread from the black dollar. They get most of their money from the black dollar. And if black people start becoming self-aware, they don't have any economic power, because 97% of black dollars basically fund their middle class lifestyle. 97% of black dollars go out here and fund their kids going to private schools, fund their kids going to top colleges, fund them being able to start their own businesses. Most of their money comes from the black dollar in the black community. But if that black dollar goes away, what happens is that entire whole ecosystem and whole pyramid of minorities and white people basically crumbles into dust, and all these folks basically go broke because the black dollar is staying to itself. Moreover, the black dollar basically is growing because black people understand their value and start building their own businesses and trades. And again, as they start trading, they cut these racists completely out. And as those racists get cut completely out of the economic system, they see themselves getting crumbs from the table, which is what they deserve because they put no work into anything outside of terrorizing and oppressing people. And without that oppression, these people basically, again, cannot survive. And in a system of justice and a system of true merit, they cannot survive whatsoever because they never did any labor. Again, they get in what they put in, and what they put in is absolutely nothing. And outside of the violence that they have nothing at all, tangible at all. And that's where black people would be if they actualized their potential as related to an actual true and fair economy. And when it comes down to getting towards that true and fair economy, again, black people's minds have to be in the right place. We have to be in the right place, and we're starting to get there because new black media, like guys like Professor Black Truth and Jason Black, have been trying to explain to black people about the concept of how to vote, and also about the concept of tangibles, because many foundational black Americans for many years just voted straight down tickets without ever understanding the entire political process that the late David Carroll talked about having an agenda, and having an agenda that sets a series of goals that you and your community establish. And after you establish that series of goals you want to have achieved, you pick the candidates, and after you pick the candidates, they go and represent your agenda in a local and national level and make sure that the agenda is being implemented. And if they don't implement the agenda, this is where you can hold these people accountable and possibly replace them in the next election. That's one thing you can do. And the other is participate in group economics and supporting black-owned businesses like the SJS Direct Imprint that I own and many other people own. This is how, again, you take your power, and take your power by, again, going out here and understanding those foundations of things, and understanding that foundation of things as related to other agendas such as reparations. Again, reparations is essential towards, again, repairing the black economy that has basically suffered for over 200 years, ever since the days of the terrorism that destroyed towns like Black Wall Street, and also deals with the discrimination that denied many black people their ability to enter the job market, and also deals with the current and ongoing discrimination that keeps people like myself from entering the job market and being able to compete, and helps knock down that human resource brick wall established by feminists and other extremists who basically, again, keep a gate up that keep black men out of the job market. Because if we have our own money for reparations, we can start our own businesses, and that basically knocks down the wall as related to these jobs that basically feminists have taken over, and allows black people to go out here and effectively compete. Because now that we have the capital, we were denied from bank loans and denied at property with redlining, we now have, again, the economic access with reparations to go out here and actually compete. And that's going to, again, lead to the allocation of resources that will really allow us to grow as a people, because that's what reparations is all about. Reparations is all about, again, a redistribution of resources to compensate black people for the years we were denied an ability to be able to access and compete in the economy because of the 400 years of white supremacy. That's what reparations is all about, because, again, the foundations of the infrastructure of this economy are perfectly fine. That's shown as related to what was going on in those black towns like Rosewood and Black Wall Street, thriving towns, strong economies. Again, when black people are allowed to compete, we can go out here and again build a strong economy, an economy that has 3.3 trillion in cash and credit right now, and has such tremendous spending power that it basically uplifts other minority communities, like many of these other minority communities where they're sending their kids to private schools. But if we were to spend that money all by ourselves and got our reparations, it would basically turbocharge this economy, turbocharge an economy under a system of justice. And that's what the white supremacist is afraid of. If black people were able to go out here, we could build a nation that would be just like Japan or South Korea. Again, a strong, dominant country. Again, that would be a nation within a nation. And again, that's what would happen if we had a allocation of resources under a system of justice. Under a system of justice, we would have that type of economy. But the whole thing is that the thing that keeps our economy from really growing is the institution of white supremacy and the whole, as I think of it, wealth being held hostage by a just small group of individuals who want to keep it all about white. But the whole thing is that the only way they can maintain that is if they maintain their system of anti-black racism, which again artificially keeps black people at the bottom, artificially keeps black people at the bottom, and doesn't allow black people to grow, to actualize their potential. Again, the thing that we have to get rid of first is the system of white supremacy and establish it with a system of justice the way the late Neely Fuller proposed, because once you get rid of the system of white supremacy and establish it with a system of justice, then you have the fairness and justice to ensure that black people will not be terrorized and will not wind up being denied opportunities and be able to fairly compete in the economy, fairly as related to the labor they can produce, and go out here and produce labor that will help this country actualize his potential and again force actual competition, something that has been lacking for over, I'd say, a good 20 years in this country. We've really lacked competition, and that's led to many of these whites becoming so complacent and lazy that they basically, their entire country is falling apart, and falling apart because their whole system of goodies, giveaways, and guarantees has made them rest on their laurels, and as they've rested on their laurels, their whole country is falling apart, and that's why your economy is falling apart, because the system of white supremacy hasn't created people who want to work and compete, and that's why America is losing so much, because black people are not competing in the economy or allowed an opportunity to compete, because if there was actual competition without white supremacy getting in the way, America would still be a superpower in this country to this day. Now, this was a video requested by one of my viewers, and if you want to request a video, you can send a minimum of $15 to the PayPal or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box, and if I know something about that subject, I will make that video for you. And if you want to pick up some of my books and support a black-owned business and participate in group economics, you can pick up the books of the SJS Direct imprint, like the ISIS series, the Esteem series, the John Haynes series, or my men's issues books, or my Spinsterella books, or my books like The Thetis and my vampire novel Eternal Night. You can find all of those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them at other online booksellers like Draft Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer. Take a trip into the macabre world of goth modeling in the new millennium in this spooktacular Spinsterella story. Pick up your copy of Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Esteem Season of the Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed, all-new Esteem series adventure. Pick up your copy of Esteem Season of the Witch Girl in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers today. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis Dark Incubus in paperback and e-readers today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.